Hello, Cindy here with Create Your Own Luck in Love, where I help women to transform their hearts to attract and keep the kind of partnership that resonates deeply within their heart, that's resonant for them. Everyone has something different that resonates for them. So that's why we're all so unique and individual. So today I'm talking about a topic that is, you might oftentimes hear about, relationship blocks or subconscious blocks that hold you back from actually having the kind of relationship that you want. Well, today I'm going to talk about the one thing that everyone experiences that can damage or destroy the ability to have the kind of relationship that you deeply desire if you're not conscious of it and not conscious of how it's manifesting itself within your relationships. Are you ready to hear about that? Let me know. Yes. Say yes if you are. I'm ready to hear about it. And what do you do? So that one thing is entitlement. And you might be thinking, well, Cindy, I don't show up entitled. I don't show up entitled in my dating life. I don't expect a lot. I'm a really loving, easy person. And that may be very well true. However, everyone has a sense of entitlement, unless you're super aware. And even then, I believe that people do have entitlement that comes up, that shows up. But here's the key, is to learn what that looks like and how it shows up in your relationships so that you can actually create what you really want and understand what's blocking you. Okay, so entitlement can show up as simple as, you're taking a route to work in the morning and you notice that the street that you normally go down to get to your office is closed due to a flood. And it frustrates you and you get flustered and you start, cussing about it or whatever you do. That's actually a form of entitlement. So something doesn't show up in the way that you think that it should. If you ran out of coffee creamer and you're upset in the morning that your coffee isn't the way that you want it to, it's the same thing. That's a sense of entitlement. So entitlement manifests itself in many different ways in dating. And I talk a lot about emotional triggers, and emotional triggers typically come from entitlement. When we're in a place of entitlement, we typically become defensive, self-righteous, and rigid in our thinking because there's a thought process that this person should show up the way that I think they need to be showing up. So for example, maybe you're newly dating someone and you both really like each other and you really want, you only want to date one person at a time and he's not in that place yet. And so in your mind, you make him wrong and you put him in a box of the story that maybe you know about, that you've created about men based on something that usually happened in your formative years or growing up. So maybe you put him in a box and say, he's just like so many men that don't show up, that don't want a commitment, that aren't in that space. So you cut him off and you don't actually move forward because he's not fitting in the box of what you think he should be showing up as. Or, you know, another one is maybe, you know, you're dating someone and you expect him to text you every single day, multiple times a day. And if he doesn't show up in that capacity, then he's wrong for it. Then it becomes a source of frustration, projection, and there's a reason for this always. Because maybe for you, we'll go down this rabbit hole. Maybe for you, communication has always equaled safety for you. So when there was lack of communication growing up in your home, maybe that equated chaos. So for you, consistent communication equates safety, which this has to do with attachment styles, things like that too. But what we make things mean becomes an entitlement too. So, and obviously this is something that may not be so obvious, but obviously you want to have standards, you know, ways that you want to be treated in, and that you desire to be treated in relationship. And that's absolutely normal to have those standards. And, you know, being present within that, it's, you know, approaching your dating life from the being in the present moment and actually looking at it from where are we at? How well do we know each other? Are we in a place where, you know, I can get to know this person as well as get to know other people? I don't ever recommend dating just one person at a time, especially in the beginning, because you're putting your eggs all in one basket with somebody that you really don't know yet and hasn't actually shown you who they are and how they're going to show up. That means he gets to work for things, you know, for the relationship for you. But getting back into that entitlement place, thinking about how you like for things to be done and what triggers you, because that trigger tends to go hand in hand with the entitlement. A trigger that maybe you had a really bad day, or you got laid off from your job, and you expect that he should be there, he should show up at your door with, you know, Ben and Jerry's and Netflix in hand to be there for you. And if he's not there, then he's to be made wrong for it. And a lot of times what happens with women, and this goes into, men do it too, by the way, but especially women, this goes into not only entitlement, it goes into it goes into emasculation. So he's either right or he's wrong. So if he doesn't show up in the way that you want him to, he's completely wrong, rather than actually acknowledging the things that you do like and that are right. So emasculation comes through that. And part of that also, which is where entitlement stems from too, it comes from the place of thinking that you need to be this perfect version of the perfect woman that you've created in your mind, that may come from media or just yourself. you. And if you don't show up as such, or haven't had that, which could be the way that a man shows up for you, then that creates that entitlement and that criticism where you're critical of yourself, you're critical of him, which inadvertently everybody starts to push away love. And people shut down. They don't understand. So if you start to understand where your entitlement comes from, what you think a relationship should look like, why you think it should look like that, what are the things that bother you, or the things that you think need to be in place in a relationship, and how do you communicate that? How can you communicate, this thing makes me feel really safe. For example, when I was growing up, my mother, she still is, she's very much a clean freak. And she had to, what I knew is that if I was there to make sure the groceries were put away and the house was in very, very good order, it would be less likely that she would become enraged when I was growing up, because she would oftentimes explode. And that was safe for me. So I like to have order. I like to know what to expect. And when I was growing up, I worked really hard to be 2 to 3 steps ahead so that I can mitigate, which you can't control those things, any source of, explosion that could come, right? A landmine that could possibly go off. So what do we do when we grow up? We subconsciously start to do this in relationship where, the person that you're dating isn't your mom, isn't your dad, isn't that person that raised you. However, it becomes a closer relationship. So we oftentimes, like you've heard, we will pick people that resemble our parents, resemble that as actually a purpose to heal. But if you learn what is happening underneath, then you can actually release that and create a more cohesive relationship rather than being entitled and I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but showing up like he should be doing this. And if he's not, it's because he doesn't care and he better be doing this. No, nobody has to do anything. However, you get to show up in a space where you're understanding, where are the areas that I'm entitled? What triggers me? Because what triggers me is part of my entitlement. And that's a big word, and it should actually trigger you. Because if somebody said, well, you're showing up entitled in your relationship or your relationships, if you think about that, then is there a story that I'm creating around that? I would invite you to take a look at that. But here's some ways to not show up as entitled, is looking at, what's the capacity of the person in front of me? What do I like to see happen as I'm dating someone? Where are we at? How long have we known each other? And what's surfacing right now? Okay. I hope this helps you guys. Let me know if there's something that's come up for you recently where you feel like your entitlements come up, and how, is this supportive? Would you like to hear more about this? Have you shown up as entitled? If so, I'd love to hear what happened, and if you were able to work through that. I hope this helps. Again, thank you so much for being here with me today, and I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye, everyone.